So in my previous I'll Explain It video, we looked at Intel processors, and I promised that we will look at the other processors, namely AMD and the Apple M chips. So let's do that. What are the AMD or the Apple Silicon processors and their best use cases? My name is Alexis and I'll explain it. Let's start off with AMD. AMD has a variety of processors available for PCs, and the lowest or most basic performance are the AMD Athlon processors. We really don't get many Athlon processors on South African shelves, so I won't dwell on them too much. They are almost equivalent to the Intel Celeron and Pentium processors and are for very basic tasks and low-end computing like just emailing, document viewing and editing, light video viewing, as well as online shopping. Outside of the AMD Athlon series, we get the more common AMD Ryzen processors. And we get the AMD Ryzen 3, 5, 7, and 9, with Ryzen 3 being the entry-level and most budget-friendly processors of the series. It's significantly more powerful than the AMD Athlons and are ideal for basic computing like web browsing, document editing, and media consumption. The Ryzen 5 is suitable for more demanding tasks such as gaming and content creation on a budget. It has a very good balance between performance and cost, and the AMD Ryzen 5 is, in my opinion, the most suitable for most users as it almost gives a mid-range performance with a budget-level pricing. The Ryzen 7 is considered the most mid-range of the Ryzen chips, but I feel it actually deserves even more credit because it offers high performance for serious gaming, streaming, and professional work like video editing and 3D rendering. And then finally, we get the AMD Ryzen 9. That is the most expensive of the AMD chips and is also the top tier CPU for enthusiasts and professionals who require the best performance for gaming, multitasking, and heavy workload processing. AMD processors also have generations ranging from the Zen 1 to the Zen 4. We are currently on Zen 4 with rumors of Zen 5 dropping sometime later in the year. If I was to make a comparison between Intel and AMD, I would equate AMD Athlon to the Intel Celeron and Pentium processors, and then the AMD Ryzen 3, 5, 7, and 9 to the Intel Core i3, i5, i7, and 9 respectively. Although it's not an exact like-for-like comparison, it's close enough to give an almost equivalent of each. And there are so many nuances between the different brands, and I feel like they deserve a comprehensive comparison in an entire video on its own. Now moving on to Apple and their Apple Silicon chips, the M series. Apple's M series chips cater to various Mac models, balancing performance, efficiency, and specialized features. The M1, which is the first generation Apple Silicon chip that was introduced in 2020 November, powers devices like the MacBook Air, the 13-inch MacBook Pro, and the Mac Mini. It's known for its impressive performance per watt efficiency. And then we also get the M1 Pro and the M1 Max variants, which arrived in October 2021 with the 14-inch and the 16-inch MacBook Pro models. They offer higher performance and additional features such as better graphics and hardware ProRes accelerators for video editing. The M2 launched in 2022 and is the base processor for newer Macs like the 2022 MacBook Air and the 13-inch MacBook Pro. It provides a generation-over-generation performance lift compared to the M1. The M2 Ultra and the M2 Max variants were introduced in June 2023, and these power the Mac Studio and the Mac Pro. The M2 Ultra also features in the MacBook Pro. The M2 series adds scalability for higher power systems. And then finally, we get the M3, which is the third generation of Apple Silicon. The M3 offers improvements over the M1, but is still less powerful than the M1 Max. The difference between the Pro and the Max versions really just lie in the graphics and the memory support. Previously, Apple Macs were powered by Intel processors until they moved to their own custom Apple Silicon chips that only work on Apple devices. There are only a few Intel Macs left on the market, namely the 2018 Mac Mini, the 2019 Mac Pro, and the 2020 27-inch iMac. So it's very hard to compare Apple processors to any other processor because often the specs are very specific to Apple devices and features, and also Apple tends to launch a new chip with a specific device as opposed to it existing independently. So really, you can only compare apples to apples in this case. There is so much more to processors than what we've explained in these two videos, but I think this is just enough high-level information to make an informed purchasing decision. Comment below the type of CPU you prefer, and be sure to follow 8th Avenue for more insight on tech terms and concepts, and I'll explain it.